We've invited Dr. Lad to come and talk to us today about the Telepathy Tapes.
What is going on in these children that they're displaying kind of yogic abilities? Can you give us your take, Dr. Lad?
So these children, autism, they have extrasensory perception and they know how to tap into the collective subconsciousness. Auto means self, so it is a very complicated, difficult journey to your pure self. And in that journey, they are not connected to the outer world.
What this is calling into question for some people is the idea that consciousness might actually be the substratum rather than the material world.
Love seems a lot to do with the yogic powers that these autistic kids are having.
The yoga practice and yoga philosophy and yoga siddhi, the supernatural power, these siddhis can do anything.
Welcome to the Wild and Sacred Path, an Ira Prana Plus podcast with your hosts, Mitesh Raichata and Jeremy Frindell. Hello, thank you so much for joining us here on the Wild and Sacred Path.
Wild and sacred.
This one will be both, I think, this conversation. We have the most special of guests today.
Most sacred of guests.
Dr. Vasant Lad, who is our sort of spiritual guide of everything we're up to pretty much around here. Mm-hmm. And we've invited Dr. Lad to come and talk to us today about the Telepathy Tapes, which it seems like everybody's talking about this podcast.
Yes.
I've listened to all of it and been fascinated and had a lot of emotions and thoughts come up. We've been talking about it a lot.
At lunch today.
At lunch, our whole lunch was about
lunch. We talked about the Telepathy Tapes. And so many people know Dr. Lad as this world-class Vaidya. Even ChatGPT, if you ask who's the best Vaidya on the planet, they say Dr. Vasant Lad. And so the whole world knows Dr. Lad as a Vaidya, and a beautiful one that's really changed the profession over his, lifespan. But we are lucky to know Dr. Lad intimately as, a yogi and a master. And he would never say that because he's so humble. He would never, ever self-proclaim that. But he's taught us so much about yoga, about the divine, about all the subtle realities that we can be a part of. And I know our lives are deeply better because we're in touch with some realities beyond the physical. And so that's why we're really happy that we can have Dr. Lad on our show today to help us interpret like what is exactly going on from, a yogic and even a scientific perspective, with these telepathy tapes.
So if you haven't listened to the Telepathy Tapes, and Dr. Lad, we were just familiarizing him briefly before we started. It's this sort of series of studies that was uncovered of children with apraxia and autism that weren't able to communicate for the first sometimes 10, 20 years of their lives at all.
Jeremy, what's apraxia?
Apraxia means that your body and consciousness are disconnected. So a lot of times these children can't feel, my understanding, that they have a body, or they forget that they're in their body. They lose contact with their hands and their arms. So a lot of times for them to place themselves in space is a real challenge. And it's these kids that weren't able to communicate for most of their lives. Then they started developing a technique that they called spelling, where they could push one letter at a time, which is a gross motor skill using your hands versus a fine motor skill of speech. And then what was uncovered was that these children were reading the minds of their parents, of their teachers, of their siblings, that they knew what, like a parent could be reading a book in another room, and they'd come and the child would tell them about the book that they'd read. They could have had a conversation somewhere, and the child would know the whole conversation without having heard anything, without having any possibility of hearing it. And family after family after family was expressing the same things. So they started to realize there's something going on here, and then they started doing these tests where they would have a random number generator, and the child wouldn't possibly be able to see what the number is. And it would be like 9-digit numbers, not like 1 through 9, but 9-digit numbers. And with almost 100% accuracy with the child unable to see it, they would get the number correct. They would get random letters that weren't even words correct. Things that we would think impossible were being repeated over and over and over and over again with these children. And then as the kind of study deepened and the exploration deepened, they were realizing that these children, without ever having been taught any language other than their native language, could speak 7 languages, that they could, they knew basically and had encyclopedic knowledge over things that they'd never studied. They could tell you the entire story of a book that they'd never read if their brother had read it, for instance.
And a lot of times, I think, Dr. Lad, it was the mom and the child. So a lot of times there's the maternal connection with the child, or a lot of the times the way that they were reading their mother's mind. So the unique, connection between a mom and a child was very apparent in a lot of the examples.
Or their teacher. It wasn't that they would see, like they weren't reading minds of people on the street. It was the people that they were most close with that it was expressed the most. So that was one thing, and we'll kind of dive into some of the other things that they uncovered. But for us, we were curious to just talk to you about a lot of the things, like that one in particular, telepathy and being able to read the thoughts of another person is something that yogis have been expressing. And you hear these stories of saints and gurus that you sit and they will tell you things they couldn't possibly know. Over and over, you hear these stories, and so often people dismiss them. That can't be true. And if you've had that experience yourself, where somebody has looked at you and known something about you that they couldn't possibly known, oftentimes it kind of blows your mind to where then you become a devotee because you believe because it happened to you. But if it hasn't happened to you, most people dismiss it because our world is so based in this material science paradigm that if something doesn't fit into what we can explain for that, people dismiss it and the media dismisses it. So
we've heard you actually talk about many times, many stories, how there's a yogic kind of clairvoyance that is there. And I guess what our question is, what we're leading up to is, what is going on in these children that they're displaying kind of yogic abilities? Can you give us your take, Dr. Lad?
Beautiful. When I met my Guru Maharaj, he gave me a mantra, a technique of meditation. And in that state, I love Krishna. And I'm a little artist, I like to draw the picture. So in my meditation, I saw beautiful Krishna playing with the flute. And there is a cow. And boy, I was thrilled. I said, oh, I'm now enlightened. I saw Krishna. So I draw the picture of Krishna. And I was planning, I will go to the Guru Maharaj home and I will show him, I saw this. So I went there, to complete the picture, I went to his village. So somebody said that he is sleeping. But my friend who came with me, he banged his hand on the door. So Guru Maharaj said, I know, you saw Krishna and you draw the picture and you come with the picture to show me. I was shocked. I said, how he knows? So finally he opened the door. He said, in deep meditation, your mind is cleansing. All the thought, feelings, emotion, they come and go, come and go. And you reach a clarity, you reach a very profound stage. Before that, these pictures hang up. And one of the picture, the Krishna came. It was not Krishna, it was Maya. Oh my God. He said, it is not Krishna, it is Maya. I was shocked. I said, this is amazing. I thought I am enlightened. Then I come to know I am still down. So I feel sad, but it doesn't matter. In the evening, there was his discourses. He gave discourse on Bhagavad Gita. And in the evening, we went to see him. And I asked him, when can I become enlightened? He said, virata murata means slowly, step by step, you will reach there. If you suddenly go there, you will become mad. You will become crazy. So he said, the self-realization, the self-enlightenment is at every moment. But you want to continue it, you want to stay with it. No, that's not it. Then what about your past life karma? all your past life karma, thought, feelings, emotion, they also want to become enlightened. They come to see you, and you should be in a state of letting go. So letting go is the state of surrender. So this is a very short dialogue that Guruji and me we had. Then finally he said, the enlightened person is described in Guru Gita, Mudavat Pishachavat Balonvat, means that enlightened person is like an innocent child. Externally he looks neurotic, he looks idiot. He doesn't have intellectual look, he looks in his own world. That exactly the autism. In autism, auto means self, and they are having inner journey to their self, and they are doing in every moment of their life. They are in their own world. Even if you call them, they are not there. So autism, auto means self, so it is a very complicated, difficult journey to your pure self. And in that journey, they are not connected to the outer world. Even they are not connected to their body. And they have difficulty even to put certain thing in the word. And exactly, you cannot describe the enlightenment. You cannot talk about the glory of samadhi. Samadhi is Turiya, and Turiya is beyond Jagrat, Swapna, Shushupti, and Turiya. Jagrat, the wakeful, Shushupti, the deep sleep, then Nidra is a dreamless sleep, and Swapna is the dream. And beyond these three stages, the fourth is Turiya. And in Turiya state, there is an expansive state of awareness. So many times these autism children, they were just about to become enlightened in the past life, in their journey. They are about to jump into the inner abyss, and at that moment, their past life karmas exhausted, they have to leave the body. When your karmas are exhausted, then Mother Nature doesn't keep you in this body, because this is bhogayatana. Bhoga means experience. Whatever past life karmas are there, you are using this body to get rid of those karma, to pass the karmic situation. That is bhoga. Bhoga means experience. So this body is given to us to experience our unfinished business, our unfinished thought, feelings, and emotion. So then when we become fully enlightened, then you come back as per your desire, like Krishna came as a Lord Krishna, or Christ came, or Buddha came as an enlightened master. That is a very profound state of that Jivatma, become Paramatma. So in a short, what I feel in this autism, these children, they are genius, they are bright, brilliant, but they can't explain what is going on. They are in their state of awareness where no word can describe it, no thought and feeling can touch it. So this is a kind of pretty active Turiya. Turiya is the fourth state. And their Turiya is creating this. Casually I was teaching the same subject to my student, and I took some note. And I look into the other book. I have my old medical book, Davidson's book, very beautiful. And there he says, what medical point of view, he says, autism is a developmental disorder where the individual becomes self-centered. He is only interested in the self. He is not connected to the world. That was the description. I didn't like that, but it is said like that. But I study what they want to say, what Ayurveda want to say. So Charak talks about a great deal about how baby is born, how the soul enter into the body of the fetus. And there he says, Atma, which is self, Pitru karma, Matru karma, means mother, father, and we are all intimately connected. And in that intimate relationship, intimate connection, that Jivatman, who was in the form of sperm, and 80 million, they were running like a marathon, and we are the lucky one who we reach the goal, and we enter into that final target, and we have fertilized egg, and we are developing in that mitotic division. One cell become two, two become four, four become eight, eight become billion, trillion. So soul enter into that body right at the time of fertilization. But this choice is there because of karmic connection. So karmically, we are intimately connected with our parents, father and mother. So we are born in that particular family, in that particular womb, because we are connected to that mother and father. It is called runasya bandhanam, runanubandhanam. It is a deep karmic connection that makes us to take birth. And these autism children, they are very close to the mother, because mother is the divine mother. She is the womb. In that womb of the divine mother, this life is pulsating, throbbing, creating. So, spiritual point of view, if we see that we have a physical body, then astral body, then etheric body, then causal body, and behind that the subtle body. These are different bodies. This is sthula shariram, annamaya kosh, pranamaya kosh, manomaya kosh, jnanamaya kosh, vijnanamaya kosh, and finally anandamaya kosh. This kosha system is given in the Vedic philosophy. Same thing, the kosha system is there in Kundalini awakening. So what I feel, that these autism children are very spiritual, very divine, very dynamic, genius. But before they become fully stable, enlightened, they finish their past life, they come into this life. And same thing is continue. Therefore, they are born in the womb and they grow in intrauterine life. When they come out, the first breath happens, they grow. But apparently it looks developmental disorder, which may be right according to neuroscience. But according to Vedic science, it may be connected to past life incomplete journey to be completed in this life, but he doesn't know what to do, or she doesn't know what to do, and therefore they are in the state of doing without knowing. That makes sense? They are in the state of doing without knowing, not knowing. Or whenever we are talking, all the ideas, concepts, they happen in the brain, and then buddhi and chitta give word to that, and we can label, we can communicate with other people with our experience. That doesn't happen in case of autism children, because they are still in the space between the observer and the observed. There is only pure observation and action. But there is no recognition, there is no identity. They have no fear. Even autism child, the train is running, he will stand between the two railway track. He has no fear. So it is scary to us, but they are in their own world, because they are in a fearless zone. They can jump down. So they become impulsive. The thought comes to catch the butterfly, they will run like a butterfly and catch the butterfly. So I'm looking at this with the basis of Ayurvedic knowledge and Vedic knowledge, that autism children are, we don't understand them, but they are very genius, bright, brilliant, and they have great intuition. So I met in Pune, I went to see one of my friend's son. He was autism, and he was in his own world. And he loved the scooter key. And I have a scooter. How he knows that there is a scooter key in my pocket? And he said, I want key, I want key. And he came and put his hand in my pocket and he picked out the key. So his father said, no, don't give him, he will lose, he will drop somewhere and we don't, then you will be stuck here. You cannot go back. So anyhow, he grabbed the key from him and he gave it to me. So then I had my little briefcase. Without knowing anybody, I just put the key in the briefcase. And again we came. And after half an hour, he came. Directly he went to the briefcase. He opened the briefcase, he found the key. I say, oh my God, how he knows? So as you say, they are very genius, very bright, very brilliant, and they still it is wonderful thing even to the modern science to discover how these individual they grow and how they behave and how they act.
You know, Dr. Lad, there's another, we hear about the Akashic field, like there's Akash, right? And so there's an instance where they had the mother and the child 10 miles apart. And they were showing the mother something, and then 10 miles away, the child was saying the exact thing the mother was looking at. It was instantaneous. So they put them very far away, and it was going on. So I'm wondering, and there's another example I'll give is that this one child could translate anything. So you could put French, they would start typing the French, in English. And even though the child had never learned French, parents didn't know French. And so then if they were thinking, well, if somebody around them knows French, maybe they're reading their energy. But then they get, that Egyptian, they have hieroglyphic, how do you say that word?
Hieroglyphics.
Hieroglyphics. I can't say that. I never can say that word. Okay. So whatever that word is. But like it's that ancient Egyptian language. So they would put the child in front of that, and the child starts translating that ancient language, Dr. Lad. So one of the questions is, are they tapping into the Akash? And if so, what is this Akashic field that they're tapping into? Is that part of his Akashic field?
That is collective subconsciousness. There's a lot of things studied about conscious and subconscious, and our subconsciousness it has incredible memory. It know every language. It can listen from a long distance, and through subconsciousness we can get extrasensory perception. So these children, autism, they have extrasensory perception, and they know how to tap into the collective subconsciousness, and they go into that. So my guru, how he knows that I'm drawing picture of Krishna and I'm coming. So this is vast, immense Turiya state where you are in tune with the subconscious mind, collective subconscious, which is very important. And nowadays they are using subconscious mind for healing, which is a hypnotherapy. Hypnotherapy is also good for healing, but this is something beyond hypnotism. So Turiya state, which is a profound state, to some extent it is a vast expansive state, and in that vast expansive state we are in touch with the collective subconsciousness. Therefore we can see. That's why that boy can listen to what mother is thinking. Even he doesn't know French, he can speak in the French or write in the French word. So does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah, one thing that they talk a fair bit about in the conversations of the podcast is this idea that we, in the last couple hundred years, have come to consider matter the foundation of existence. In the materialist world, all of science is built around this material paradigm. And what this is calling into question for some people is the idea that consciousness might actually be the substratum rather than the material world. And that these children are, like you're saying, they're tapping into a deeper level of consciousness than we can understand. And what that idea would do to our entire understanding of the world. I feel like most people look at the body and they think it's a solid thing. But a body is an ethereal construct of tiny particles every second, millions. Like it looks real, but it's not real. And that our entire scientific world is built around that misconception. And that these guys tapping into this deeper state of consciousness is poking holes in that paradigm that yogis have understood was not real to begin with.
So what you say reminds me of Sankhya's philosophy, Purusha, Prakriti and Mahad. So Purusha and Prakriti, before creation, they were one. Purusha is eternal, Prakriti is eternal. Purusha is timeless, Prakriti is timeless with time. Then Prakriti and Purush, those both are immeasurable. And their first expression after the Big Bang is Mahad. And that Mahad is supreme intelligence. So perhaps that supreme intelligent Mahad principle is nothing but pure consciousness. And that's why in presence of that pure element, consciousness, experience happens. There is an observer, there is an object, but if there is no consciousness, no experience. So behind every experience, there is absolute need of presence of consciousness. Without consciousness, there is no experience. So as you say, it is maybe sixth element, the pure consciousness, which is there and which is common for all of us. Individual consciousness is different because our thought, feelings, emotions are different, they are personal. But unified field consciousness is the commonality. And perhaps to some extent these autism children, they are pretty close to that state. That's why they can tap into that energy and they can see what is happening.
One thing that's kind of keeps crossing my mind is I feel like we would hear more stories of yogis doing miraculous things that we couldn't understand in the past. And that these days it's maybe less common, or maybe they're just better hidden. But part of what I wonder is if the world of science and more people growing up in this materialist framework of thinking has suppressed these abilities that people would show more often in the past.
Quite. That reminds me, one of the great yogi, the woman, she had fibroid uterus, huge. And the surgeon said, you have to do surgery, there is no other way. So he went to this yogi. He said, I will do surgery. The yogi doing surgery is horrible. She said, bring papaya, the whole papaya. And you know, papaya looks like inverted womb. So symbolically, he said, look, this is your womb. And she was sitting there. Now I will take the knife and I will cut this papaya, and that will remove your tumor in the womb. And little bleeding happened, but don't worry. And really, literally bleeding happened to that woman. He just cut the papaya into 2 pieces. And within 2-3 days, bleeding stopped. He asked her to eat some hemostatic manjishta, musta, and some ashoka. And amazing. And then he said, now go to your gynecologist and check. They say, amazing, your tumor is gone. There is no tumor. So that makes sense because, as you say, this is, I'm not ready to talk about this thing in the Western world because they will think this is crazy. This man is talking something hodgepodge. It looks hodgepodge, but there must be some quantum mechanism answer is there. So symbolically, the atoms and electrons and protons in the papaya are the same, the atoms and electrons and protons in the womb. So psychically there is also concept of psychic surgery. And then there is one Chinese guy, he came there and he did psychic surgery and he removed the kidney stone. This is amazing. And we don't have as yet any answer to this. But what I think that more the science grow, perhaps all these hodgepodge thing will start making sense.
I think that's what's going on, right? Literally, this podcast that's come out, many people are questioning their entire world of view. What some people that are very scientifically minded or skeptical are thinking, wait a second, they're literally watching this on YouTube or they're listening to it on a podcast, then maybe we have greater potentiality. So I think Jeremy had earlier he said, are we capable of this? And in the Ashtanga yoga, they have like Pratyahara. So maybe, like you were saying, that someone with autism, they're very internal. So Pratyahara, maybe if we bring our senses internal, if we maybe do mourn or fast, bring our awareness fully internal, our propensity to these yogic states, how do we increase them, I guess?
Correct.
Yeah.
So in a sense, they are doing pratyahara. They are in the state of experiencing, but they don't explain. They don't put into the word. Pratyahara, ahar means food. means to receive the sensation without interpretation, without judgment, without criticism into the inner reality. So these autism children, they are always in touch with the inner reality, but they cannot put it into words. So this is their pratyahara.
In the Yoga Sutras, in the third chapter, the Vibhuti chapter, they talk about a lot of the same skills.
Correct.
And they talk about it as a samyam, like how do we, it seems like they've tapped into that ability. So one question that I've had in this process is it seems like they're getting to that place through love, through their incredible love for their mother, for their siblings. They can only communicate with people that they deeply love. For me, I've always imagined that when you get into those Vibhuti realm, it's happening here, you're kind of moving. But what they seem to be exhibiting is that it's moving from the heart.
Correct. Because as you talk about love, and they have great love towards their mother, but in reality, love is awareness. Love is clarity of perception. Love is simplicity. And love is honesty. So they are very honest to themselves, what they are doing. And they have great clarity within. Outwardly, they look confused. But they have one-pointed clarity inside, and they love the mother. So that love, which is freedom, which is compassion, which is awareness, is there. But their journey is introverted, right? While attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, their journey is extroverted. Condition is the same, but it is extroverted ADHD and introverted is autism. That makes sense.
So one thing that I was wondering is, a lot of these children a lot of autistic children, they, for the first some months of their life, can be healthy, and then there's a regression. Correct. And the autism numbers have changed so much over the last 30 years of how many children are considered autistic or diagnosed. It used to be almost unheard of, 1 in 10,000, and now it's 1 in 30 in some cases. So there's a lot of dialogue, and people get a little emotional around the dialogue, but one dialogue is around if there's some poisoning that's happening that's causing the autism, whether it's from vaccinations that have increased dramatically, how many vaccinations, what's in them, metals in the food, just toxins in the environment, what is causing this incredible rise in autism? It's a controversial question. But one thing that
30,000, like
in the 70s.
in the 70s, and now it's 1 in 30. So this huge increase in autism, Dr. Lad, I guess. There are a lot of theories.
And one thing that came up for me around this, and I was curious your take on it, knowing the role that Mercury has played in Ayurveda over the years, that in a lot of the adjuvants, the preservatives in the vaccines is mercury and other heavy metals that some people think could be causing the autism, is that mercury in high doses crossing the blood-brain barrier. And I wondered about the link between these sort of Siddhi developments in these children, and if mercury was used. I know mercury was used in various ritualistic ways in Ayurveda, and I'm curious if you think that might somehow be tapping these kids into a realm that...
That's a very beautiful question, because modern etiological factor of autism is like toxicity to the heavy metal, mercury, arsenic, lead, as well as radiation. But in Ayurveda, they use mercury. Chemically, pure mercury is toxic to the human usage. So, mercury is a shining liquid heavy metal. So it looks like semen of Lord Shiva. They say it is the semen of Lord Shiva. And mercury has affinity to the sulfur, and sulfur is the ovum of Parvati. So they purify sulfur in the milk and the ghee. If you put sulfur powder with ghee and heat it, it becomes liquid. And if you dump that liquid sulfur ghee into the milk, and the fine tortilla happens at the bottom, and whatever toxic effects are there, they are absorbed by the milk and the ghee. They do that 7 times because there are 7 dhatu, 7 chakra. Then mercury is purified by different samskara, dipana, pachana, Urdhva Patana, Ardha Patana, Tiryak Patana, all these different samskar. And mercury is also grinded with aloe vera juice, and aloe vera juice become black, and they change it. So this way, whatever toxic effect of mercuries are there, they are absorbed by this alchemical procedure, and they purify mercury. If you do 16 samskar of mercury, mercury will become solid. And solid mercury, if bubukshita parat, it is a hungry mercury, it can eat the gold. Amazing, I lost my ring, I just put the ring near the solid mercury, and by next day morning, the gold from the ring was totally absorbed by mercury. And the weight of the mercury doesn't change. This is amazing. This is Ayurvedic alchemy. So they use that mercury, purified mercury, one part, and equal part of sulfur, and grind together. That is called Khechari. And that Khechari is the basis. If you use only 100 milligram of that Khechari and mix with the Ayurvedic herbs, 1,000 times more, and the Mardhanam Guna Vardhanam, you go on grinding so that the toxicity of other plant is gone, and the potency of medicine enhances by 1,000. That's the beauty of this. So mercury is very important in Ayurvedic alchemy and Ayurvedic Rasa Shastra. Rasa means mercury. So in Ayurvedic Rasa Shastra product, they use mercury, silver, gold, as well as sulfur. And these medicines, they last long and they have good high potency. In a small doses, they can do great healing effect. So in that sense, that which is poison can be nectar. Poison can kill the poison. So this idea came, if the mercury toxicity is creating this effect of Alzheimer, no, this autism, so why not to use the Ayurvedic mercurial product called uh, Smriti Sagar Ras. It has Brahmi, Jatamamsi, Shanka, Pushpi, sulfur, and mercury. And that highly potent, it really brings order in the cortical area of the brain, frontal cortex, amygdala, hippocampus, gyrus, thalamus, hypothalamus. And literally it should help those student, those a candidate having autism. So poison can kill the poison.
Is there a use of the mercury that you think, or the way that mercury was used in Ayurveda, that would move people towards this sort of siddhis that these children are exhibiting?
That's why one of the product of mercury is called Khechari vati. Kha means Akash. So the yogis, they make Khechari vati and they do some pranayama and they put that Khechari vati under the tongue, and your body become lighter, lighter than feather, lighter than cotton, and your body can lift up. You can sit like 3 feet away from the space, and then you can go anywhere with the speed of light. But it is not allowed nowadays because airline don't like that concept. Otherwise people will fly from one country to another country by Khechari vati. So Khechari vati and Khechari Mudra, they go together. If you do Khechari Mudra, the tongue is touching the behind the palate to the ethmoidal sinus. And Khechari Mudra is very powerful mudra. It is done in yoga. And Khechari vati is a mercurial product. So mercury, even modern science doesn't know much about mercury. Mercury is a bad guy. It is in the poison list. So therefore they no mercury. So mercury has incredible medicinal value. Even snake venom can be a medicine. It can save the life of a person who had a snake bite. There also poison can control the poison. So what I want to convey here, still it is in the process of observation, it is in the process of inquiry, learning, exploring. But when we go into the deeper sense of that autism, I think soon there will be a good medicine will come out with the help of Ayurveda and with the help of modern science. I think I'm integral person. I want to do integration of modern medicine and Ayurveda so that these are two wonderful medical systems and they can bring radical change. This is a future medicine, is integrated medicine, and it is happening in that sense.
Jeremy, tell Dr. Lad that story about the child that passed away.
So in the podcast, they follow a lot of the same children throughout and the families, and you kind of get to know some of the children. I'm going to spoil a little bit of this for anyone who hasn't listened yet. But in the last episode, one of the main children that they were profiling dies. And these children, they would talk about what they called the hill, which was almost like an astral realm where they would all communicate. And these children knew each other some of them had never met, some of them lived on opposite sides of the country or different countries. And they all spoke of the same place that they called the hill, where one of the children would go and he'd cover himself in pillows so that he blocked out sounds and impressions from around him. And then his mom said he would stay there for hours and he'd be laughing and he'd be crying. And he would tell her later that he was on the hill and he was with his friends. And they all were reporting the same thing all over, that they would have these conversations and they would report conversations that they'd never had in the physical realm to their respective families. And it was clear that there was something happening. They all were expressing the same thing. They call it the hill. They had the same dialogue around it. So when this child passed, he died. He drowned in a hot tub. While his mother was sleeping, he went in the hot tub and he had said goodbye. There was a lot of mysterious events around that it seemed like he knew he was going to pass away. Before this child's mother had told anyone that he had died, the kids knew. And they were telling their mothers and their families that Jean-Paul had passed away because they had already been talking to him on what they called the hill. And it was amazing. It was a very, very moving part of the series. But one part that happened that was especially moving is this child that passed away on the hill in this astral realm asked another child if he could inhabit his body to go see his mother and to give her a hug and hold his mother and smell her hair. And this child said he agreed to let him inhabit it. The child who passed away asked a living child to inhabit his body so that he could hug that boy's mother. And this child that hugged the boy's mother would never touch anyone. You know, a lot of these children, they don't want to be touched. They have their own different preferences and things going on. He would never touch anyone. When this other child was said to have inhabited his mother, he kept hugging this lady and putting his head in her hair. And they all were shocked because it was so unusual that he would touch anyone. And it was later that they were told. And as I'm hearing that story, I was crying because it was so moving and beautiful. But I was also remembering stories of Neem Karoli Baba, who would just they said he would just become stiff. And then later it would be reported that he was seen somewhere else, or that he, had this conversation with somebody somewhere else. And that this ability of consciousness to inhabit different bodies and leave bodies has been reported in other ways. So I was curious just what you would...
No, that's very true, because all these yogis, those who practice pranayama, meditation, they can manifest at a different place with their etheric body. And other people see that like a physical body, like a picture. And then they're gone. They come back again and stay in the physical body. Because our tanmatra, shabda, sparsha, rupa, rasa, gandha, they are universal phenomena. Tanmatra, the object of perception, shabda, sparsha, rupa, rasa, gandha, the sight, the smell, the touch. So they can travel from one place to another place. And it happened in case of my guru also. He was at his village, but I saw him coming to Pune, and he gave a lecture, and next day I said, Guruji, you were there, you are here. So don't tell anybody, I'm both places. So what I want to convey, that this is beyond our logical mind. Logical mind is beautiful for logic. 2 plus 2 is 4 is logic. That is universal language. But the yoga practice and yoga philosophy and yoga siddhi, the supernatural power, these siddhis can do anything. There are Ashta Mahasiddhi, Anima, Garima, Lagima, Mahima, Prakamya, Ishitva, Vashitva, all this. So they can manifest anywhere. and they come and they will do the work and they will go back. So, but we are not yet there, because even science is not yet there. Perhaps in the future science, because of the computer, it will be possible. You will be at different places. Now we are talking, this will be pictorial and it will go to different places. So as these photons are traveling, same thing will happen. Then we are in the photonic world.
One thing that seems to be revealing itself profoundly through the dialogues around this show is that that rational mind is so limited, and that the potential, when we can kind of move beyond that rational mind into something deeper that is within us, that is our potential, that is maybe our birthright, but we're limited by this idea of the rational mind. So how do we free ourselves from that so that we can evolve in a different way?
This is beautiful. Our mind is a rational mind. It is an individual mind. It is a particular mind. But we all are connected by the universal mind that is called ground mind. Ground mind is universal. It knows everything. And particular mind, rational mind, only knows about this room. But between you and me, there is a vast, immense, immeasurable ground mind or universal mind. And it is full of compassion, clarity, love, but unconditional love. Moment love is conditioned, it becomes individual. So that unconditional love comes from the rational, not from the universal mind or ground mind. And ground mind has relation with the particular mind, the individual mind. But individual mind may not have relation with the ground mind. That's why meditation make the person to have relation with the universal mind, which is a ground mind. Then you can see.
You know, Dr. Lad, it's like the interesting thing that me and Jeremy were talking about is that love seems a lot to do with the yogic powers that these autistic kids are having. And you're talking about the ground mind, or you talked about Mahad being consciousness, that is the fabric of everything. It's really interesting. Ram Dass used to call, you know, we always talk about awareness as a certain permeating reality. Ram Dass used to call it loving awareness.
Correct.
And it was so beautiful. He would always say, I am loving awareness. That all there is loving awareness. So I'm wondering that maybe the currency of the divine, maybe the love, yes, it can be individually, emotionally perverse, but if you go to the love that is universal, that you don't expect anything in return, is that an entry point? Is that the fabric of is the universe just awareness, or is it loving awareness?
We have separated, but actually the pure awareness is love. There is no difference. And love is, our love is conditional. I love you because you gave me candy. This is a conditional love. So, but there is unconditional love, which is pure awareness, which is choiceless passive awareness, and that is very profound. Moment we choose, we have a desire, then it is no more awareness. It is reduced to the individual attention. So to reach that state, it is possible for every one of us to remain the space between the observer and the observed. Then observer and observed become one. And in that oneness, there is love with awareness. And love is God. And that awareness with love is God.
So sometimes when we sit and we meditate, the mind slowly becomes still, and then still, and then still. And then you feel this deep sense of peace. But loving awareness is that it's not just peace, it's not just quiet. There's a certain love that permeates from your heart. Is that correct? There's a difference between just deep peace and loving awareness?
Very good question. When in meditation we become quiet and we are very still, in that stillness there is awareness. But apparently it looks that this awareness is static, it is not moving. But in love, awareness is become flow of love. Awareness become the current of love. Therefore, awareness and love is very dynamic, very creative, and awareness without love becomes static. So, but there is nothing static in this world. Everything is moving. Like we are in the aeroplane above the cloud and we look like we are not moving at all because there is no comparison, there is nothing to compare. So, non-comparative awareness looks static. So, even in meditation, when we are silent and peaceful and awareness is just expansive state, looks stable, but it is not stable. It is moving with its own speed. But when that awareness with love start flowing in the form of poetry, in the form of prayer, then it has its momentum.
Hey, Dr. I know you keep up with what's going on in the world. It seems to me that humanity is now, especially in the United States, we see it, they distrust the government, they distrust their educational systems, they're distrusting their even their health system and their pharmaceuticals, because like all of this has been commandeered by greed and by power. And now I think that probably more so, maybe in the 70s, but now it seems like it's coming to a peak where humanity is saying, even science, they're realizing the flaws, that they made science a religion. That, you know, so all of these institutions, educational institution, the universities, less and less children are going to universities because they're starting to see the corruption in all these institutions.
Media.
The media, no one trusts the media anymore because the media is bought by both sides, any kind of political system, any kind of powerful system. So does this seem to you like an entry point for humanity to really come deep? Everyone's like, oh, the world's going to end. This, you know, everyone's gloom and doom. What I'm wondering is maybe this gloom and doom, do you see it as an opportunity that the world may now blossom and not only look at materiality like Jeremy was talking about, maybe start looking at these cell dimensions? Because what is your thoughts on that? Is it shifting in the positive?
The very beautifully put, you say very wonderfully. But what I want to convey here, that it is good that people are not trusting in government, not trusting in media, not trusting in science. Then whom to trust? Then slowly trust will come to yourself. And when you start perceiving honestly with a clear perception, and that clarity in perception become compassion, and compassion become love. So this thing, this turmoil is going on in this world. It is good because it has its momentum, it has its function, and that will make the person not to be interested in worldly affair, go within. And when the truth is in the heart of everyone, Ishvaraha sarva bhutanam hruddeshe Arjuna tishtati, Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, God stays in the heart of people. And then people will get bombarded with all this information, then man will sit quiet and go within. And he or she will find the truth in the heart. Then there is a dazzling light behind. You are pointing out here, there is a mountain here. This is the mountain, the Meru mountain, which is spinal cord. And above that, there is a cave, that is the third ventricle. And third ventricle is the space of light. Then there is a dazzling light of awareness. And there is a flame of attention without wig, without fuel. It's a dazzling light of awareness. And that light is love. That light is you. So it's a wonderful thing. Slowly, slowly, we are going within.
So all of our self-evolution is the only solution.
So
And there's no need to look outside for this support, but we come internal. And the last question is kind of in the same realm of this doomsday things that everyone talks about. You know, for every Kans, there was a Krishna. And for every Ravan, there was a Rama, right? So Kalki, what's going on? When is that happening?
yeah, the word kalanka, kalki, kal means kal, time. And time is a movement. Time is becoming. Time is desire. And time is achieving. So now man is tired of this time. So man is slowly going inside. There is a timeless zone within the third ventricle, within the central canal of the spinal cord, that is called Puritati Nadi. There is a space between two neurons. There is a space between two thought, two feeling. There is a space between two breath. And that space between the two breath, space between two thought, it is the same space between two galaxies. And that is called Chidakash. And that is Sachidananda. That Sachidananda is universal space which is there in the ventricles of the brain. And we are nothing but pure space. And that space is Chidakash. And that Chidakash is Sat Chid Ananda. Sat is the truth, Chid is awareness, Ananda is bliss.
One thing that is really exciting about this moment with the, this conversation with the telepathy tapes is I feel like it's expanded people's ability to dream into what they're capable of, and I feel so grateful to be able to talk to you about these.
Oh,
these
such a
things.
great honor! Thank you. This is wonderful sharing. Perhaps we are in the different state of consciousness, and this will bring all the people to the same state of awareness. This is satsang. It is a company of the truth. Sat is truth, sangha is company. So, sangachadvam samvadadvam sammo vacham se janatam deva bhagam yatha purve sanjanana upasate akhanda mandalakaram vyaptam yena characharam tatpadam darshitam yena tasmain Shri Gurave Namaha. That is Guru. That Guru is universal state of awareness, and that Guru is within us. Thank you, such a great joy, such an honor. Thank you.